Nobody starts at the finish line. You have to start somewhere. In order for you to get to where you're going, to meet that destination, you can't think that you're going to get there instantly. Welcome to another episode of the Nothing to Something podcast, where I touch on different things, on different areas of life, how you could go from a nothing place to a something place. Now, I'm not a professional, but I do give my personal experiences. And today we have a guest on our show, Coach Love. I want to give a big round of applause for Coach Love coming and joining us. And right now we're touching on self-reflection and how we can go from a nothing to something place with dealing with self-reflection. So we're just going to jump right on in there. Coach Love, just tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started.
Okay, I'm happy to do that, but not before I say thank you to you, King Victor, for allowing me the opportunity to share your platform. You're doing phenomenal work out here, girl, and I'm just grateful that I get to have a few moments to participate in this journey of what you're building for all of us in the space of, going from nothing to something, right? So thank you for that. I am Coach Love. I happen to be the CEO of a company called keepsakmotovation, where I actually guide men through the space of healing their emotional, mental, and spiritual dimensions. The core of what I teach is called the self-love trifecta, which I'm sure we'll discuss more here today throughout the podcast. But I just happen to be a queen that believes in kings and believes that there needs to be more opportunity for safer spaces and opportunities of support for men in the spaces of who they are as men and not just in the space of what they do.
Okay. All right. Love it. All right, so just, us jumping right on in, from a coaching perspective, how do you feel as though the services that you provide is really helping the community?
I think the first way is to be for a safe, open, and non-judgmental space for men. A lot of the men that I coach or that I speak to really talk about feeling like no one cares about who they are as a man, and then that they don't feel safe to share, what's happening with them on an intimate level on the inside. So I think that's the first thing I do. I just offer an opportunity for a safe place to just be open and to share, what's happening. And I think also in the space of the community, on a cultural level, it's important for men and for boys to see that men do care about them. So I realized that this choice as my life's work is not just something that I chose, but something that was divinely assigned to me. People need to see that there are brown women or Black women that support not just Black men or Black boys, but all men, that there are women that care about the well-being of the men of the world. So I think that's another space that I create, that there's just this understanding that we do care and that we are going to support you because we've been entrusted to guide you and to be a light of energy and space for men to heal. So I think those are the two biggest components that I showcase in the world of what I do as a coach.
Oh, and listen, and that is amazing because, like you said, a lot of guys, we tend to have the perception that we have to hold ourselves a certain way, and if we don't hold up to that standard, then we can't express that because no one will hear that because we are supposed to be presented a certain way. So that is a really big challenge for men. So that you touching on that is amazing. And just the fact that you're a woman doing it, it changes the perception completely. So, again, thank you again for that. So let me ask you this question. Why do you think people should self-reflect?
because the self is the most important, right? The first law of nature is self-preservation, and it's for that reason we be willing to do our heart work, and that entails being honest in our self-reflection. I always discuss that, like, there's no conversation about self if you're not willing to be honest in your reflection of yourself, right? So that means not just talking about the things that we like talking about ourselves, but being honest about those character building aspects of who we are that we don't necessarily want to talk about. Self-reflection has to be the beginning. I think we live in a world where people decide who they are based on what's outside of them. When we're working in the space of the self, we need to stay inside. We need to stay in the space of what's within our control, which is intention and not the world's expectations.
Now, listen, that is a really good point. And something that I usually hear you say all the time is heart work. And that just kind of intrigues me. Now, what is this whole heart work thing about? What does that even mean?
The core of what I teach about heart work is that, number one, it's a word that I interchange with the word healing. But I also say the word heart work because the work that I do with men in different spaces of life is because, think of it this way. In your lifetime, the character of your heart as a man has either been reinforced with love or broken. So in the space of what we're doing in heart work, our goal is that we're going to recondition and rebuild and reinforce the character of your heart to be love instead of hate, instead of doubt, instead of judgment. So heart work really is, we're working on the men rebuilding the character of their heart. Innately was love at some point, and we just need to work back to that.
That's, that is, from a male's perspective, that is really difficult with the society that we live in. So I know for myself, I was at a place where it was hard for me to self-reflect. It was hard for me to do the, as you call it, hard work. But as I started really looking into me, started having what you talked about, self-preservation, it made it possible for me to actually go and start doing the exercises that I needed to do. They were not easy. They were not easy at all. But, something that you say on your channel a lot is really digging in there, talking about the hard stuff, not the easy stuff. Obviously we can talk about everything easy, but it's those hard conversations that we have to have with ourselves first before we can expect anybody else to have it with us. And so my next question is, what do you think that one of the easiest things that could get somebody to start doing the hard work?
I would say the easiest thing to do, like right time, is do an estimate of where you are in your life. Are you where you want to be? Is there more to you than what the rest of the world knows about? Like, ask yourself those hard questions of, like, am I the man I really meant to be right now? Or do the people that I spend the most time with really know who I am on the inside? Like, do they really know how I think? Do they really know how I feel? Do they really know about my personal relationship to who I believe to be God or the higher power? Like, think about those things that are really important, the most important to you, and just think about if you're in a space to realize that there's room for improvement in those areas, right? Self-assessment is always the easiest way to go. But like you said, people are really, that's like the hardest task of the day, right? That's the hardest opportunity to take on, is that we have to really reflect on who we are and where we are. And I think we don't do that enough. We need to do temperature checks, every day, because life changes and who we are as individuals evolves all the time. So I think the first thing to do is just do that easy assessment. Ask yourself those 3 basic questions, and then be honest about what the answers are, and then just take some steps, small steps each day to work into the space of evolving from where you currently are in those spaces.
Now that's a good point. And I talked about that on another episode with self-assessing and why we need to self-assess. And it actually brings me to like one of my next points is why shouldn't people put self-reflection off? Like a lot of times people tend to say, oh no, I'm gonna deal with that later. Or yeah, this happened, but I ain't gonna focus on it right now because it's not gonna put me in a space that I need to be in. Why do you think that people should not put self-reflection off and try to deal with it sooner than later?
The first reason is because if you continue to put it off, then your evolution doesn't happen, right? There can be no true evolution of self if we avoid who we are. Avoidance is not providing a solution. I've always been a person in life and in business, I'm solution oriented. So the goal is always, we're going to do, even if it is hard, we're going to do hardest things first so that we can evolve into our absolute best selves. That's what I share in my coaching business, that with the men that I work with, that there are 4 things I hope to be doing. And that's enlightenment, that's encouragement, that's empowerment, but that's also elevation into your absolute best self. Those things require evolution, and that can't happen if we avoid the work that we must do, which is our heart.
Okay. I mean, and that makes sense. When you're trying to change, or as I say, go from a nothing place to a something place, right? And whatever category it is, if you don't start to look for how you can make that shift, like you can't, it's defined as insanity to really think that something different or different outcome is going to happen from you doing the same exact thing. That is not possible. It's no way. That's as if you go to your job and you know how much money you make, but you're like, all right, you know what? At the end of 2 weeks, I should be getting some more money. Why? You didn't do anything to get that. It's not going to happen. So
Right.
That's a really, really big point. I try to express that to people, even in my coaching program. So let me just ask you this though. What made you get into coaching brothers? What made you do that?
Because I'm a daughter of a king. I'm the mother of a king. I've loved kings. I've worked with kings. I engage kings in so many different walks of life. And I realized the same thing is true for all of these different kings that I've come in contact with in my lifetime. They need, for me as the woman in their life, to be a guiding light. That is a gift that I believe that God has given all women to divinely have. We have a beautiful thing that if we master our energy as women, our energy can be the most healing energy to the men that are attached to us in our lives, right? So what I'm doing now as a coach is really something I've done all my life. But at some point in time in the last few years of my life, God kind of like tapped me on the shoulder, like, you're not allowed to live in this realm the way that you do and not share this with the rest of the world. So it was more or less like, you can't keep this just limited to your circle of influence. And I was like, really? And I was like, coaching? And I was like, But I realized a long time ago, I have a really awesome way of connecting with men and boys. So I was like, okay, that makes sense. But now we just have to evolve into a space where we're doing them on a much different level, and on a level that's more impactful, not just to me and my family, but to the community, and then, of course, ultimately to the world. So it wasn't really a choice, but it's definitely something I understood, and I realized the importance of it, and I realized the gravity of it, and I don't take it for granted at all that I have a gift that needs to be utilized at that level. So I just appreciate the opportunity to help, I don't like to really say help, but to guide men in the space of, really fully living out their potential, because they now have the tools and the education and the support that they need in those areas that they really need in, which are their emotional and spiritual dimensions.
Mm. Okay, and I like that point that you use. You don't really help people, you more so you guide them. You're guiding them into where they already saying, they're telling you they want to be. They're coming to you and saying, look, this is where I am, but this is where I would like to be. And you really guide them in that transition to becoming a better self. As so many times, we tend to think that, oh, well, this coach is trying to tell me what to do. But, in reality, if we look at any area of life, with coaches, whether it's acting, whether it's playing a sport, everybody has a coach that is going to guide them to having the fullest potential of what they're trying to do. If you're trying to be a good basketball player, guess what? Your coach is going to help you be a better basketball player. He can't do the work for you, though. So, and especially with men, and I can speak on this, being the male, right? And you notice I said with men and being a male, because just because you're a male doesn't mean you're a man. So it's a difference, and that's how I look at it, So in that transition of really looking at your self-reflection, when we're trying to go from that nothing place to that something place, so we can really say, all right, well, as you said, I know where I want to be. I know the things that I've been through. Like, we all know the stuff that we've been through, whether it was somebody not affirming us, and that kind of created some type of self-doubt. Oh, well, you know what? I shouldn't say that. Or they told me that, oh, if I'm girling, then that's not manly. That's not what boys do. So, but as a guy, we translate that as, I can't express myself.
Right.
So, a lot of times we as people, what I'm noticing is people have the wrong impression of what a coach is and what a coach does. And a coach is not a therapist, right? Some people do need therapy.
Yes.
But some people need a coach, and there's a difference. Now, let me ask you this question, because obviously, with the economic state that we're in, a lot of people can't afford certain things. If somebody couldn't afford either your coaching them or your coaching program, what would you say would be an affordable way for them to kind of like help self-reflect or help do that hard work? What would you say?
Oh, that's an awesome question, Victor, because I share that a lot when I'm doing my lives on Instagram. I understand that the resources in the professional guidance that, men may seek may not be within the realm of affordability right now. But you can, for those of you that are still venturing into the world, you can always stop at the dollar store. You can always get you a journal, and you can get you some pencils or some pens, whatever your chosen choice writing utensil is. And you can start journaling. I know that doesn't sound like something that's popular or that's something a man would do, but one thing I created before, which I'll be reintroducing the year is over, I created a gratitude journal for men. There are 3 things that I talk about in the self-trifecta that we can do on a basis on our own, without a therapist or without a coach. And that's practicing forgiveness, gratitude, and positive affirmations. You don't need to pay someone $1,000 to teach you how to do that. In the space of forgiveness, just consider that that there's information and energy that's no longer serving you, but you're attached to it because of the experience, because of the pain. A lot of times we don't want to release our pain because we think that somehow that's going to devalue our experience. But the reality is that pain cannot always be a man's default setting. That should not be the only space that you work from. So I first say you must practice the circle of forgiveness, because if you don't practice forgiveness, which is basically you just mastering the art of let go, it's going to be really hard for you to be present in the now and be able to realize the things that you have in your life already that you can be grateful for, right? And then if you're having a difficult time being present, of course it's going to be difficult for you to be able to positively affirm what you believe is possible for your future. So I'd say the easiest and the most affordable thing you could do, get you some pens and paper, get you a journal, write down how you're feeling and what you're thinking each day. Write to yourself about, your spiritual connection that you feel like you have or may not have with God. But just start with having those really quiet moments of conversation with yourself. And sometimes you're not ready to speak those things. So it's better to just start with writing those things, because that's sacred information that still gets to stay with you. You don't have to share with anyone else, but that can give you some really true, real time and real life understanding of who you are as a man, where you are right now in your life. I'd say start with that first. And like I said, you can pick those things up at the dollar store. I think every man has $2.
And if you don't got $2, we need you to reassess a whole lot of other things before you can even get there, right? And look, even if you ain't got $2,
right,
go borrow $2 from somebody.
right. Or another option I say all the time, my DM is always open. You're welcome to drop in there if you have a moment and you just want to share. And maybe you don't need advice, but you just want someone to listen. The DM is open 24/7, and I promise you, when I respond, it will be me that responds.
Ooh, now that's something different right there. I ain't never even heard nobody talk about that. So people could actually DM you, even if they can't afford your services, they could still DM you to get some type of consultation or some type of help.
Yes.
So now where can
some type of guidance and insight will be offered free of charge. I call those love offerings.
Oh, nice. I love it. So how can people find you so they could DM you?
My preferred platform is Instagram. Of IG, you can find me at keepsakmotovation, all one word. And then you can just DM me there. I do happen to also have a Keepsake Motivation page. I'll to do a direct message there as well. And then there's also a website, keepsakmotovation.com. There's a connection page there where you can send an email or send a message through the website as well to get in contact with myself.
Oh, man. Listen, there's no space for people to say, oh, well, I don't have no way to get this out. I don't have nobody to talk to. Ain't no excuses at this point. She put it out there, all the information, she's available. All you have to do is reach out. And as you already said, write it down. I love the fact that you said you may not be ready to speak it, but you may be ready to write it down. And that's your own information that you keep into yourself. Like, I've learned that how can you be honest with anybody else if you're not honest with yourself first? Good, bad, or indifferent. It doesn't matter.
That's right.
So if you are honest with who you are, if you are honest with your self-reflection, that is the step to going from a nothing place to a something place. So again, I want to thank you for joining us on this episode. Thank you so much. I appreciate everything that you're doing. And again, where can people find you so they can get in contact with you?
Hey, thanks again, Victor. You're welcome again. Like I said, contact me on Instagram at Keepsake Motivation, Facebook at Keepsake Motivation. The website is Keepsake Motivation. We try to keep all the brand and stuff the same, right? I have a book that's out this month called Heartwork, the Self-Love Trifecta. And it's basically talking about the 12 benefits of practicing forgiveness, gratitude, and positive affirmations. That book is also available on the website. I do have a few more podcast episodes coming up in the future, and there's some other things in the works. So you guys will definitely be more of me. But in the meantime, in between time, please utilize the social media platform. Please utilize the website. And if you're in a space where you're not quite ready to reach out to a professional, to seek guidance in the space of healing, fellas, I still want you to maybe consider purchasing that book. And just start there. We have to start somewhere, but I don't want you to keep putting off the opportunity to evolve into your absolute self.
And there it is. She said it. You gotta start somewhere. Ain't nobody going to start at the finish line. You don't start at the finish line, you gotta start somewhere. So I just want to thank you, and I want to appreciate you for coming. And remember, go be great.
You're in control of how you feel. You're in control. You are the determining factor of your feelings. No one else can control how you feel. Remember, you're in control how you feel. So control your feelings.